future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
She's passionate about telling stories of amazing women who are rocking the world and empowering women to live, love, and thrive. Here's your host, Katherine Gray.
Hi, welcome to Live, Love, Thrive Women's Empowerment Hour, brought to you by 360karma.com. We have three incredible women on today. They are all working in the arena of nonprofit and just making an incredible difference in the world. We're going to be talking with Elaine Leader, who is the founder of Teen Line, and her program director, Cheryl Eskin. And then later in the show, we have CNN hero Marie Da Silva, who started the Jacaranda Foundation, and you're going to hear all about that. So you won't want to miss it. Stay tuned. Right now, please give a warm welcome to Elaine and Cheryl. Hi, ladies. How are you today?
Good, thanks.
Good. Well, I am excited to talk about Teen Line because I think what you're doing, gosh, for the past 30 years, right? 37 years have been saving lives and making such a difference in your Teen Line Foundation. And not only are you saving the lives of people calling in, but I think it also changes the lives, as we'll talk about with Cheryl, on the people that are volunteering and being a part of it, the teens that are...
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I see them as our future community leaders.
That's it. And you know, but I think people will be interested to know, who is Elaine Leader and how did this all get started? So I know you started your life in England. You were born there, right?
I'm originally from London.
From London.
And I came to this country first when I was 11.
11, okay. So 20 years ago.
Sort of.
At least.
Went back in the middle of World War II.
Now, you said in the middle of World War II, you did move to the U.S., and that was that to go to high school?
I went to high school in New York.
In New York. So
I graduated at 15.
So let me ask you this. How did you get to come here in the middle of that war? How did you get to come to the U.S.? And did you leave? Did your family send you here because of what was going on there?
I came with my mother.
Wow.
And my siblings. My father was very understanding of what was going on politically. Mm-hmm. He sent us in April of 39.
Wow, April of 1939. Okay.
So war broke out in September, and we stayed on. Mm-hmm. But he had a heart attack.
Oh, my gosh.
When he was 42, so my mother decided we should go back to England.
Wow.
But the only way you could go was through Portugal.
Oh.
So that was a whole other story.
Right.
And I went back to England as a 16-year-old Bobby Soxer.
So after high school, you returned to London.
Yes.
Yeah. And
but then I came back to New York to visit my sister who'd married.
Right. So your sister married an American.
Right.
And then when you came back, is that when you met your husband?
Yes.
Who's an American.
Yes.
Yeah. And he was an opera singer, right?
Basso profondo.
That's really cool. So, but then you guys went back to England.
We went back.
It's hard to follow this story.
So I've been back and forth, and forth.
Back and forth, back and forth.
So I feel kind of...
Yeah. And you told me he was in a show called Paint Your Wagon, which is infamous, in London.
He was in Paint Your Wagon for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it was very successful.
Yeah. So now that you've been here for so many decades, do you ever miss London?
I always miss London.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a wonderful place.
Yeah, who wouldn't? It is a wonderful place. They don't have great food, though, do they?
Yes, they do.
Get real. You told me when you came to the U.S., people asked you, do they have cornflakes there?
Yeah, they did.
I thought I would have asked Cheerios. You all always say Cheerio, right?
Yes, we do.
I would have asked Cheerios. Why did they ask cornflakes? I don't know. But you do have them there, right?
Yes, we do.
I was going to actually bring you a package of cornflakes this morning. It was funny. I was telling Jane McCord that. They were laughing. Anyway, I am so happy to have you on today because the work that you all are doing, and Cheryl, I know you're the program director over at Teen Line, and you actually started with Teen Line at 14, right?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
I started as a listener my freshman year of high school, and then I stayed with Teen Line through my senior year of high school.
Wow. So. And so now you're the program director, so obviously...
She worked her way up.
Yeah, you did. Now, you say you're a listener, and people might not understand what that means. So the way that it operates is that teens are able to call in and speak to teens, right? And in your work in therapy with kids at Cedars Sinai for so many years, I take it you realize that teens would really benefit from talking to other teens.
Well, I was the coordinator of adolescent group psychotherapy training and had an adolescent group. And I noticed in the group that they helped one another even more than we did as therapists.
Right.
And that was
now,
the beginning.
You went to UCLA and got your master's and your PhD in this, right? And so you took all of that knowledge and all of that work in therapy at Cedars Sinai with you to start this Teen Line Foundation. So you really brought a lot of expertise to it to make it be able to work, I think.
Well, I was at Cedars and I was seeing patients there and running the adolescent program and thinking it would be a good idea to have something for teens.
Right. That's when you got that epiphany to start Teen Line.
Well, I had done some volunteer work on another counseling line for parents of infants and toddlers. So I went to the director and I said, how would you like it if we had a hotline for teenagers? And he said, well, who's going to fund it?
Oh.
So I had to write a grant proposal.
Right.
And a private foundation funded it.
Right. You were telling me that. So you actually wrote a grant proposal and got $49,000 to start Teen Line 37 years ago.
That's right.
I always say, when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, somehow you get the funding and it all falls into place, right? However, you have to take the actions, and that's what you did. You wrote the grant, or there would be no Teen Line, right?
True.
Yeah, true. And then wonderful people like Cheryl came along and were volunteers. I know a lot of it's volunteer-based, though it does cost money to run the operation, obviously. But a lot of it is volunteer-based. So if people out there listening, they should know that, should this be something that speaks to their heart, and everybody should be doing something to give back, that this would be a wonderful way to give back, and having even themselves or their children participate in this program.
Well, we get a lot of teens wanting to do it.
I bet.
Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, we're very well known in the LA area, so...
So how do you find your listeners, and what does the listener do, and what kind of training do they have?
I would say they usually find us. Mm-hmm. We've been established for so many years that people in the community know of our program, know someone who's been through it or heard it before, maybe have called our hotline for help.
And just to interject there, it's amazing to me how many people I encounter. I'll be like, oh, Teen Line, or oh, Elaine's going to be on. Or I had you at my conference on the Forever Young panel, women in their 80s and 90s who are still rocking it. That would be you, Elaine. And I was surprised that a lot of people have not heard of it, which is why I wanted to have you on the show, because I think you can never have enough people talking about organizations like Teen Line, because not everybody knows. And so I love to keep spreading the word.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
We do have a big outreach program into the schools, particularly.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So a teen reaches out to you, says, I want to volunteer. What happens?
Yeah, we generally run 3 training groups a year. So they go through an intensive application process, an interview, individual and group.
And what do you look for in a volunteer that would be the appropriate person?
It's complicated. I'm definitely someone who's responsible and mature for their age, has some empathy and some insight, because we deal with on our hotline any subject you can imagine. Suicide and depression are our third and fourth most common call. We deal with child abuse, we deal with rape, sexual assault, anything you can, like I said, you can imagine. So we need a teen who's able to handle that, for lack of a better word, and mature enough to be able to ask for help when they need it, take in suggestions, and be able to sit with that emotion.
Excuse me, Cheryl, but very often they're the kind of teen that other teens go to in school when they're having a problem.
Oh, so the person that's the go-to person.
Yes.
Yeah. And so what do you do to train them to prepare for these kind of calls? Because it's something probably, you know, when they initially start, it's out of their sphere.
Right, definitely. So we do a 65-hour training program that we're very strict on. They need to come to every training. They need to participate, because obviously if you weren't there for the day you trained on suicide, it'd be hard to take a suicide call.
Sure.
And then once they come, they actually love training. Training becomes like group therapy in a lot of ways, where they share things about their own lives they've never really shared, or just get to know themselves and other people in different ways.
And it's probably the reason they're there. Because I usually find people's calling has something to do with some obstacle they've had to overcome.
A lot of them have had issues.
Yeah. And then they feel drawn to do something to help those people in that arena that was something to do with what they had to overcome.
Right, definitely. We see that a lot of people who've been through their own struggles and want to give back, or want to be there like someone was there for them, or because someone wasn't there for them, they want to be the person.
So someone calls in, and what is your response? Is it you start trying to delve into, you know, what the issue is, why they called in the first place?
We call them listeners because they don't give advice. They listen.
Oh, interesting.
It's a way of listening. It's called active listening.
I love that, because I bet a lot of kids come from households where they don't feel heard. You know, I'm a big believer in everyone wants to be seen and heard.
Right.
Yeah, and they don't always have that in their family, especially if it's a big family, or, you know, they feel lost in the shuffle, they don't feel seen and heard. So this is a way for them to call an anonymous person that's relatively their age that they can talk to.
Right.
Yeah.
And we also do email and text as well. So as you can imagine, as technology's evolved, we've evolved with technology. And so text is honestly our most common way that people reach us these days.
Really? That's
over
interesting.
phone calls, which kind of speaks to teens. I mean, that's the way teens are
totally
communicating.
Does. We've all changed our culture so much, haven't we? I know in mine and Elaine's lifetime, it has totally changed.
Right.
I didn't even have, we didn't have texting.
Right.
But now it is very convenient, and it seems like especially the millennials and the teens, that is their main way of communicating. So you do have to, I see, change your system to align with that change.
Right.
We were the first hotline to have texting.
Really? Wow.
It's been over, what, 6 years?
About 7 years at this
7
point. And we're
years?
actually launching an app in the next couple of months to just continue
that's
to meet
great.
teens where they are, because that's the way they're communicating. And
So this app will be called Teen Line?
it'll be called Teen Talk, actually.
Teen Talk. So people will be able to download it through Apple?
Yes. It's only going to be available for iPhones in current time, but hopefully will expand in the future. But a way for people all over the world, honestly, to
is great.
communicate with the
Wow, so
with
you'll be able
another
to
teen.
reach people in other countries and
We do already.
Which we already do.
Oh,
yes.
you already do.
We already do. I was telling our other guests, we had an email this week from Kenya. So people,
gosh.
it's amazing with the power of the internet and search engines that people can find us. And we do. We hear from the UK a lot, India. And we've really found
New
teen
Zealand.
angst is teen angst is teen angst, no matter where you live. I mean, obviously different cultural, societal norms, but a lot of the issues are the same. And the same, what you said, just wanting to be heard or
What's
have
the
someone
number
get
one
them.
thing that people call in about?
Relationships.
Relationships.
Which has been that way for 37 years, because everything is a relationship.
Right, right. And so,
But number 2 is now anxiety.
oh, that makes sense with what's going on in the world. Yeah, yeah. It's that's why I do this show, is because there's so much bad news out there in the world that I love to put the spotlight on people who are doing, in the midst of all this, you all are doing positive work.
Thank you.
And isn't it nice to hear refreshing stories of people that are doing good in the world, because there are so many of them, and our programming on television tends to not be telling these stories. Very little, maybe CBS Sunday Morning, or, once in a while, the gentleman I like on the nightly news, he'll close with the human interest story.
Right.
But 99% of it is bad news and
Somebody
anxiety producing.
Somebody being shot.
Yeah. So, how wonderful. How wonderful. What is your next step with Teen Line? I guess, your next step is your app, right?
Yes, the app is our next step. One of the areas we've expanded in the past couple of years is we already do a lot of education to teens, spreading our name, who we are, why they could reach out, talking about our most common calls, suicide prevention. But we expanded in the last couple of years to start educating parents as well, realizing that a lot of times parents don't always know how to communicate best with their kids or how to connect.
Or how serious it is.
That was exactly
I lost
what I was
a
gonna
really
say.
dear friend of mine about a month or two ago to suicide. And I have to admit, I didn't realize how much they were suffering. Ugh, it's going to make me cry to think about this. But, what are the signs that it's really serious? I think that's important for us to get that information out there.
Definitely. I mean, the biggest signs are departure from what their baseline. So
Departure from their baseline. So if they're normally doing certain things and
For
then all of a
instance,
sudden
let me
they're
give you
doing
an
something.
example.
Okay.
A teen who's, say, in 10th grade normally gets A's and B's, and now is getting D's and F's,
Right.
dropping grades.
Yes.
Somebody who's been outgoing becomes withdrawn.
Gotcha.
Somebody who has had a healthy appetite stops eating.
Okay,
So
so a
change
change
it.
in behavior. They had a healthy appetite, they've stopped eating, they've been outgoing, they start being withdrawn, or what was the first one you said?
Grades drop.
They were grades or A's and B's, now they're C's and D's.
Very often if they've had a serious loss.
A serious loss. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've all been down that path, and it makes things seem like so dark, but
But with teens,
Things
their
get
brains
better.
are not fully developed, so they can't see beyond the moment
right,
or the pain.
right,
Right.
They can't think ahead. Yeah.
Right. And it's really
Wow.
their first experience, like their first breakup or their first fight with a friend, really seems that catastrophic
Right.
because they don't have the life experience to know they're going to have other breakups or have other friends.
Right.
And we as adults often come in and say, oh, there's other fish in the sea, or oh, you're making too big a deal of it.
Right.
And we really don't listen to their pain, and we don't validate where they are sometimes.
Right.
Or even just understand it.
Right.
Very often parents just want to fix the situation, make it better, rather than just listening and hearing it through.
Right. So, in other words, a parent is trying to fix it where all they need to really do is listen.
I say listen, listen, listen.
Listen, listen, listen. That's great advice. Tell me some success stories.
Well, let me tell you about somebody.
Yeah.
This young lady called in to the hotline when she was 16.
Mm-hmm.
And she was very depressed. She had a gun. She was going to kill herself.
Oh, my God.
She called a couple of times and hung up. She was scared. But then she let somebody listen to her story. She came from a Catholic family from South America.
Mm-hmm.
And she was gay. She was a lesbian. But she didn't know how to come out to the family.
Right.
She felt she'd be rejected and
Right.
that it was a sin.
Yeah, that's often common with
But
gay
for the
people.
first time,
Yeah.
somebody heard her. She was on the phone for nearly 2 hours.
Wow.
And she got home. She told her sister, who was younger, and was accepted. And that made her change. And to begin to be more open about it. And not to be suicidal.
Right.
But the wonderful part of this story is that the whole family has changed as a result of this. This young woman is now a therapist herself.
Oh.
She's married to the love of her life, and she still keeps in touch. And both her sisters went on to become listeners.
Oh, my gosh, that's great. So just to recap that story, this young girl was gay, had a gun, was going to take her life, but by talking to someone at Teen Line for 2 hours and being listened to, it helped to start turning it around. And then she went home and told her sister, and that was accepted. And then eventually the family did accept, which doesn't always happen, but thank goodness in this case it did. And now she's with the love of her life.
Yes.
And she has 2 sisters that are listeners at Teen Line.
Well, they now graduated college too.
Oh my God,
but
that's
this
a
is
great
family
story.
where they would never have gone to college, and they ended up all going to college.
Elaine, what you've done is incredible, and the work you're doing, Cheryl, because you guys are saving lives. And I love telling these stories because someone may hear their story in this and say, oh my gosh, that's me, that's my family. But if I hang in there, things will get better, and you get through it, and things change. And then look at her. She found the love of her life and now has the support of her family. Had she taken her life, she would have missed out on all that.
Exactly.
And I know you have hundreds of stories like this, right?
I love this story, though.
Yes, I love that story,
And most
too.
of the time, this is a unique story because we do know the caller. Most of our calls are anonymous, so we don't.
Oh, right.
We
so
don't
sometimes you don't
often
know the outcome.
what happens. Sometimes we'll get a thank you email or a thank you call, but a lot of times we get off the phone, but just knowing that we were there for them in their moment of crisis.
That's
so
wonderful.
we don't necessarily have the long story that Elaine has,
Yeah.
but just having that thank you at the end of the call, you really listened to me, or you were really there, is amazing.
Right.
The other thing we do is we educate law enforcement.
You educate law enforcement. Oh, wonderful.
Yes, so that they know how to intercede with suicidal teens and their families.
How many calls a day do you all take?
It varies. What'd you say?
In the last year, we got about 17,000 calls, texts, and emails over the course of the year.
Wow, 17,000.
Yes, so we're open every night,
Have you
6 to
seen
10.
it increase since the state of the world is in a place that it is right now? I mean, has it increased in this last year?
We've increased in the last year, some because of some media publicity we got. Also, I just think things going on in the world and it being more acceptable to reach out, us also having different ways.
Right.
So we've definitely had
And
a
a lot of
spike.
outreach.
And a lot of outreach. We've definitely had a spike in the last year or two.
Well, I could talk to you guys all day. I know we're needing to wrap up, and I want people to visit. It's teenline.org.
Yes.
Yes.
Teenlineonline.org.
Oh, it's called teenlineonline.org.
Yes.
Okay, I know we have it
Oh, the
up on the screen.
teenlineon.org, I think, will get you there too.
Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, thank you, ladies, for the work that you're doing. It's amazing and life-changing, obviously, to both the volunteers and the people calling in. And just thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, my gosh. We need more people like you all in the world. That's for sure. Everybody needs to be giving back and
But we
paying
need
it
people
forward.
like you that bring it out.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Well, we will be right back with CNN hero Marie Da Silva. Stay tuned. Thank you for tuning in to the Live, Love, Thrive show, where we bring you powerful and positive programming about women and those who support women's empowerment. It seems by sharing their stories and showing us their talent and potential, they remind us of our own. We ask you to join us weekly by taking a minute to subscribe to our 360 Karma YouTube channel so you get to see every episode of these uplifting and inspiring stories. We all need more of this, yes? And did you know we have the Live, Love, Thrive book on our 360 Karma website and on Amazon? If you enjoy reading books of incredible women who are doing amazing work in the world, you will want to pick up a copy. Also, when you join 360karma.com, you will enjoy our growing video content of expert advice and support and learn about our workshops. If you would like to align with a like-minded, purpose-driven community, you will feel at home at 360karma.com. We encourage and support you to live the life you love. And welcome back. We're with Marie Da Silva, who's a CNN hero for starting her organization called the Jacaranda Foundation. Hi, Marie. How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good, Catherine.
Wonderful. I am so glad that the mayor of West Hollywood, John Heilman, introduced us. And I understand he was on the board of your Jacaranda Foundation, yes?
He's still on the board.
He's still on
He's
the board.
just not the president. He stepped down as president because
Right,
I think
he
he had
was the
so much
president.
of work.
Yeah.
But now he's the chairman of the
Oh my
board.
gosh. Well, we have a great story to hear from you about how this got started and what work Jacaranda is doing, because it's amazing. It's no wonder that you were voted a CNN hero. By the way, that happens to be one of my favorite shows of all time.
Oh, thank you.
I just love it. I wish there was more programming out there that told the stories of people like yourself that are doing such incredible and positive work in the world, because we don't hear enough of them. And yet, there are so many people like yourself and Elaine and Cheryl that were just on that are doing incredible work in the world, positive things, and it's so refreshing,
Yeah.
you know? So we're going to talk about how Jacaranda started and what you do, but first your journey to here, and that is you were born in Malawi.
Malawi?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that where, I know it's famous for...
Madonna?
No, is it Madonna?
She adopted her 4
it's
children.
Madonna. I'm thinking
She adopted the 4 children
I
from
was thinking
Malawi.
someone else.
Yes.
Yes, of course. And that kind of put it on the radar of
That's
everyone, right?
That's
so you were
right.
born there, but you were fortunate enough that your mom sent you and your sisters, right?
That's right.
To England to for schooling.
That's right.
That is like that must have been like, I know that was like a miracle, life changer in your life, right? And isn't it wonderful that your mom had the insight and the tenacity to get you out of that situation and into something that really was so life changing for you? And how did that happen? Because I know you said you didn't come from a wealthy family, so how did she get you into school in England? I'm so curious.
My mom was a huge believer in education.
Yes.
And of course, for her daughters. We're 6 girls in my family, and she's had so many grandchildren who are daughters. But in the girls, she believed that as a woman, we needed to grow up with security.
Yeah.
And the only way we could have security is through education. Now, my mom was married twice. She had her first husband, actually, and he left, and she raised her children by herself.
Wow.
And then came my dad, which, again with that, she just thought about these girls need education. She looked at herself.
Yeah.
And how
She
she
thought
had
that
to
was
work
the way
really
out.
hard. Yes. And my mom,
Yeah.
she didn't go to school.
Yeah.
She didn't. She just learned by herself and from her experiences.
I always think that's the most selfless thing people can do, is to give something to their children that they didn't have themselves.
That's right.
And the fact that she did this for her daughters was nothing short of a miracle, because what mother really was putting the focus on the daughters? Everybody, in that culture puts it on the sons.
That's right.
So you really were blessed to be born to her.
Yes, and she looked at herself and she thought, well, you know what? Maybe if I was educated, I would not have been in this situation.
Right.
And she always told us, she said, I know you're going to go out into the world and you're going to get married and you're going to have your husbands. But she said, always you have to look at yourself. What if your husband leaves?
Right.
Where are you going to be?
Right.
And it has happened. My sisters, some of my sisters have been divorced. I myself was first divorced. But when for my first marriage, I was able to stand up on my own because I felt confident. I felt I'm educated and I can go out and take care of myself. And that's what happened with my sisters too, who've been divorced. They've been single parents, but they own their own houses and they're working.
Independent women.
Independent women.
Yeah.
And that
when you
came from my
educate
mom.
women and you empower them like your mom did, that's the kind of women, that's what we need to do with all women in all cultures. Educate them and tell them they can do anything. So in England, when you graduated, you were first in marine insurance?
Yes, I went to England as secretarial studies because my parents could not afford to pay for the courses I wanted to do, which were, I wanted to be a designer, I wanted to be a lawyer, I wanted actually to even be a politician at one time. I want to study politics.
Yeah. Hey, it's never too late. We need more women politicians.
But they couldn't afford it. So I went in as a secretary for secretarial studies to Pitman's College in London. And I studied there. I graduated, and then I went to work in marine insurance company, actually through an insurance company. And during my work, because at this point I had to work and study at the same time. So whilst I was working, I was an intern there at my job. And then I started studying at the City of London Polytechnic. And that's where I learned marine insurance, insuring barges and boats and within that time, that's when I met my husband, and we got married and came to New York. He was transferred to New York, and from there we lived in Tokyo for a couple of years, and then we separated.
And what did he do to take you to New York and Tokyo, and what was he doing?
Because he worked for First Boston, the bank, and he was in IT. The first guys in IT in those days that had a program that they had produced, and he was transferred from First Boston to Tokyo, and so I went there as a wife. But unfortunately, it didn't work out, so we separated and eventually divorced.
But interesting that you got to go to these various cities. And so this is what brought you to... So then you went back to New York when you got divorced.
That's right.
And you were sharing with me that you became a nanny for Ricky Lake.
Yes, well, I started working with other families. And for about 3.5 years, I worked with a family that had 2 adopted boys. Wonderful family. And then they were old enough and they didn't need a full-time person there. So I got a job with Ricky Lake.
Wow.
And worked with her for 10 years.
Oh my gosh.
We spent 4 years in New York, 6 years in LA. And
I love it's that she was the catalyst to bringing you to Los Angeles.
That's right. Yes, because she moved. She finished a show, the Rick Lake show, completed it, and she moved to LA. And she said, would you like to come with me? And I was very attached to the kids. Like when being a nanny, they become your kids. Because I took
And
care
everybody
of
wants to know, was she nice?
Oh,
she's lovely?
She's my sister.
She seems lovely.
She's my sister. The support. I started the school when I was working with Ricky. The money that I earned as a nanny from Ricky is what enabled me to take care of what was going on in Africa whilst I was with her.
Let's talk about that. So here you're in the U.S. You find out that AIDS is taking the lives of many of your relatives in Malawi.
Yes. And
you decide to start a foundation there and take 1/3 of your salary and start this foundation to help school and children, right? That were orphaned.
That's right.
Is that right?
That's right.
And that was you called your mom and said, can we open this in our childhood home, right? Yeah, that's amazing. And she was like, yes, she was on board, huh?
That's right, because she believed in education.
Right.
And
how wonderful that's kind of a wonderful gift you gave your mom, that she got to do that. Right?
That's right. And it's, a parent opening up a house. So my dad passes away. She's now living on her own. She doesn't have my dad didn't have any insurance for her. And she was renting this house. And the money that she was receiving from the rent is what she was taking care of herself. So when I heard about the school that was closing in the village, I said, Mom, why don't we open? And my niece and nephew were in that school too. And there were like 50 children orphaned by AIDS. And within this time is when my family was dying, was stricken by the AIDS pandemic. And I was internally suffering from the fact that I'm here in America. I can't be there to be with my family who was sick and are dying. What can I do? So when I heard about the school...
And you lost 15
over 15 relatives and friends and to the AIDS pandemic.
Right. And so you were thinking, what can I do to give back?
That's right. And it was very painful because I couldn't be home to be with my sick family, to be with and with my mother, she herself was stricken by this pandemic because it was her children and her family that was perishing. But so then that's when I said, Mom, why don't we open up the house and I will reimburse you for the rent that you're receiving from my childhood home where we were. And she said, yes. Now, when you think about it, a parent whose livelihood depends on this house, this money, to say you can bring in 50 children.
Wow.
I wasn't.
Well, she's been a saint from day one, your mom,
I was
obviously.
thinking, I didn't have doubts. I said, Mom, I'll reimburse you with the money that I'm earning as a nanny. So each and every month I sent back money home. At the same time, we brought in the children, but we had to pay the teachers. We had no desks, no blackboards. We had to pay
to get all of that.
No, we didn't.
Oh,
we
you couldn't?
painted the walls black.
You told me that. They sat on the floors initially,
That's right. They were sitting on floors.
So 50 kids, they're orphans to losing their parents to AIDS. Probably some of these children had AIDS.
Yes.
And so you're educating them in your childhood home. And this was the beginnings of the Jacaranda Foundation, yes?
That's right, yes.
Yeah. Now, how did someone at CNN get wind of your story? Who submitted that? Do you know?
Yes. So we were, because the school started in 2002. And from this point on, we had, now it's like 230 that was studying in my bedroom, in the living room, in the dining room.
So it grew from 50 to 200?
And 30 by 2007.
Wow.
So a friend of mine who moved from France actually from New York, because he was living in New York at the time, moved to Malawi and saw the work that I was doing. And he had helped me before that to open up a foundation here, 501c, see if we could raise any money, and we tried, and it wasn't helpful.
It's not easy. There's so many nonprofits. I know just here alone we have like 40,000 in LA. It's so hard for nonprofits to make it, and it's so important that our listeners pick something that speaks to their heart and gives back. If anybody is out there and they're not giving to some nonprofit or foundation, they're not meeting the reason they're here on this earth.
That's right.
Right? And so how wonderful that you had someone help you start this, and then
a friend,
they wrote to CNN.
He went there and he saw what was going on. And
do you want to share his name?
Luc Deschamps, who is now my husband, by the way.
No way! Oh my God, that is wonderful.
We married 4 years ago.
Oh my gosh,
After knowing him for 19 years.
Oh,
he was my friend. He was my friend for 19 years.
That's the best. I just got engaged to my best friend, and nothing is better, you know.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he wrote to CNN and said, I know this nanny, friend of mine, and she's working there. And she sends a third of her salary every month to the school that has 230 children, and she provides education and nutrition, and that CNN, out of, I think, thousands of people.
Thousands. Yeah, they pick, I think, 10 or 12.
That's right, and they picked me out of the top 10.
Oh my
CNN
gosh, I think we have a picture of you with your CNN Hero Award. Yes. I mean, when you got that call, I can't even imagine how thrilled you were. You must have just been over the moon.
And he didn't tell me. He didn't tell me he had written. I just got a call. CNN, yes, are you Marie Da Silva? Yes, have you heard of the program CNN Heroes? I said, yeah, I think so, because I wasn't watching. I said, I think so. He says, well, we would like to come in and do some filming of you. And they came to Malawi and filmed in Malawi, and they did the whole profile check on me to make sure this was what was happening.
Right.
And then, voila, from that point on, my life just kind of like changed. Because from the first profile that they aired on 14th of February, which is Valentine's Day, 2008, from that first profile to 6 months later, this was literally 6 months later, I built the secondary school.
Wow.
Because people came in and started donating, were interested in the story.
And now you have over 400.
428
students,
all orphans. 98% of the children are orphaned by AIDS. And
you feed them and educate them clothe them.
Free education, nutrition, and medical health, because we built a clinic on the premises. So we give them 2 meals of porridge every day.
Oh, wow. And also, too, the medication can now put the AIDS at rest, right? So even if they have it, they can survive it now, right?
That's right.
That's
We've been
wonderful.
very lucky with the help of the USA, PEPFAR.
Yeah, you were telling me that something that George Bush, President
right.
Bush actually passed was helpful to your
Exactly.
funding your entity.
That's right, because when my family was dying, we did not have free ARVs in Malawi. We had to buy them. And in Malawi, a small country like us, we had to go either to South Africa or pay a large amount of money in private hospitals. So a lot of people died.
Right.
At that time when CNN came, there were 10 people an hour dying of AIDS
Oh, my
in
gosh.
Malawi. We
Wow.
did not have the medication.
Oh, that's
But with the help
horrific.
of President Bush bringing in PEPFAR and Clinton and Obama supporting this program,
Right.
today everybody in the country has free ARVs.
Right, and we're just fingers crossed that it will continue.
Yes.
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 Now, once you became a CNN hero, you had an influx of funds that helped you to then do this full time. So now you go back and forth between the U.S. and Malawi, right?
Yeah, I did.
But you've told me, it's an ongoing thing raising funds. Your website is Jacaranda Foundation.
Foundation.org.
.org. JacarandaFoundation.org is on the screen. So people can donate if this speaks to their heart and they want to help you raise that funding. That it's a continual process of trying to fund it. And I know the number of children grows every year, right? Yeah.
The thing is that then CNN comes a year and it goes. And of course, we have the new CNN heroes and life goes on and it's fantastic. But what happens is that then you have to go out on your own and keep that growing. So
Yes.
I quit my job
Yeah.
a year later from Ricky Lake,
Yeah.
which I miss them dearly.
Yeah.
But I had to, because then I have the full-time, then I have to work on the foundation full-time. We don't have any big organization like UNICEF and all come and fund a small organization like
Right.
mine. So my work is when I travel twice a year knocking on people's doors. Do you remember me?
Yeah.
Now we have 428. The school has grown, and when things grow, the more we need.
Right.
So we have sent over 75 kids to college. Kids are
That's great.
right now we have 45 in college. We have a student who sat on the floor with no blackboards who's now working at a bank in Malawi. We have students working for NGOs who have come from this small school that has grown. But what has helped us grow is that support that I've had from the public who have come in and
Well, here's the thing. Had you never started this, all those children you just mentioned would have never seen college.
yes.
It is life-changing. I mean, if you change one person's life, but you've changed so many.
Yeah.
And, it's great because you just followed your heart. Here you had really a pretty fabulous, cushy job.
Yes.
In the U.S. And, I think it's just wonderful when people just, step out of their comfort zone, start something you knew nothing about, and then that some angel comes along and submits you for CNN heroes. It's just, when you're doing what you're meant to be doing, it's so interesting how it falls into place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I say to people, you don't have to be Bill Gates to make a difference.
Exactly.
With very little, you can change people's lives.
And that's usually the stories that I hear on these CNN hero stories. The amazing work that people are doing around the world, it's not that they're millionaires and they have nothing else to do.
exactly.
It usually is people who, are working people. They have very little, but they're willing to take a little bit, their time, their energy, and a little bit of money and help change the lives of other people.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
you said, even if you're changing one person's life, you're making a difference.
Yeah.
And that's the way
Everyone
I looked at
counts.
it. I
Yeah.
looked at it when I started Jacaranda.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, we don't have desks, we don't have chairs, we don't have blackboards, but the kids are in school. The kids are learning, even if they're learning to the A's and the B's, and if they're learning to count and to learn to read, they can do something in their lives. And I
Right.
believed in that. And today, these are the kids that this year we had one of the highest pass rates in the schools in Malawi, and one of our students passed so high that he's going to be taken into a medical school and he wants to be a surgeon.
Oh
now,
my gosh.
did I think of that a couple of
Yeah.
years ago? I did. I knew that
You saw
whatever
the vision,
we could do, yes, the vision, and just had to hope and that we can, if you're changing just one person.
You know, it's so interesting. People will ask me, how do I find my purpose in life? How do I tap into that? And I think it's just, I had this woman, Tabby Biddle, who is involved with something called Take the Lead on my masterclass workshops the other day. And she said, this is how you figure out what you want to be doing. What is it that you're really upset about? And what is it that you want to, who are the people that you want to help and change? And there's a perfect example. You found out what you were upset about, what was going on in Malawi, and who were the people you wanted to help change, the children in Malawi.
That's right.
And then you started your life's purpose by addressing those issues. And I thought that was a fabulous way for people to tap into who they're meant to be helping and what they're meant to be doing on the planet. You know, who do they want to help? Who are their people that they're sent here to be giving their gifts to? You know?
And you know, Catherine, I didn't know what my purpose in life was or it was going to be.
Yeah.
But
You're going along, having a job, taking care of the kids, and
but by giving,
right.
I found this purpose of life.
Right.
I can't say today
and it's so
that
fulfilling,
I have
right?
found my purpose in life.
I mean, and then here you
Yes.
are on CNN, you know, and you're thinking, wow, how did this happen, right?
know,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, it
Yes.
must have seemed surreal.
Yes, when you woke up Kodak Theater
Yeah.
on the stage where the Oscars take place, and
Right.
Cameron Diaz is presenting you with your award, and Anderson
You're
Cooper
thinking,
is
how did this
introducing
happen?
you, and I'm wearing an Armani dress, and it's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah.
This is a dream. I pinch
Yeah.
myself, and this is a dream. And then from that point on, everything changes. Life just changes.
Yeah.
And from the struggles between 2002 and 2007, me thinking, where am I going to get this month's money to pay? Because,
Right.
of course, I earned money with Ricky. She paid me very well. She took
Right.
very good care. But then as the school grew bigger,
Yeah.
I thought, oh, my goodness. There were times at the end of the month when I'd say to Ricky, can I have an advance?
Yeah.
And she would give me that advance. And today, you know something, Catherine? At my school, when the teachers come in and ask me for an advance, I
Right.
give it to them.
Right.
On the 15th of every month, I give it to them because I know what that advance, when I didn't have any money
Yeah.
to be able to pay and the expenses, I know what it did for me.
Yeah.
So now I try to
Paying
do
it forward.
Yes.
But, you know, I heard Oprah the other day say, you know, some people think she's lucky or fortunate. She said, but really, she said, everything happened to me because I really listened to what I was meant to be doing and I just did it.
Yes.
And that's the whole thing. If people feel stuck in their life or they're not feeling happy, I think it's really just tapping into who are they meant to be helping, what are they meant to be doing, and then there's such joy in that.
Yes.
There's a lot of work in it. Let's be real. It's a lot of work setting up a nonprofit or a foundation and traveling back and forth to Malawi. But so much more gratification and joy, right, in seeing the results than the work.
That's right. I wake up every morning with a smile, and even if it's a bad day, I mean, I do have ups and downs. Even in school,
that's just being human.
This morning, I was emailing because we have a problem with a young student who didn't attend school for a couple of days, and she disappeared. And
my.
I'm like, okay, but we know where she is. She's
Right.
with her boyfriend, and I
Right.
take action on that, and the school is on top of it.
Yeah.
And I'm worried because for every child that is in that school, I feel like a parent.
Yeah.
To them.
Oh, that's
so
wonderful.
I'm like one of those crazy moms. Before the examinations come out,
Yeah.
I can't sleep. I'm like, oh, what are the results going to be like? Because it's government
Right.
examinations, and so it's
And
it's,
usually all pass and
they pass.
Oh, that's great.
All but one failed their high school exams to go to college.
wow, that's
And
an
we
amazing
take them
record.
all the way through college.
Yeah.
Every one of them, we take them all the way through college.
That's so
They're
great.
graduating, they're going to college, they're finding qualified employment in Malawi. And the beauty of it is that they're coming back and taking care of their families. And they come back to the school. A lot of times will bring me little gifts. I'm like, keep the gifts. They're like, Mom. Are very appreciative. But these are the kids who are going to go out into the world and make a difference and change. And this is the one thing that the public should know, that it doesn't mean because you're an orphan and you're coming from an underprivileged background and you're poor that you're imperfect. These children have surprised me to the fullest of their abilities. I believe.
And by educating them and feeding them and helping them, it makes them productive people of society who can then give back to the world and make their own difference.
Yes.
That's the beautiful cycle of it all.
Exactly.
Yeah. We do have to wrap up. I am so grateful to have you on today and grateful for all the work that you're doing.
Thank you so
happy.
much.
I know we were meant to connect. And just keep making such an incredible difference in the world with Jacaranda Foundation. I hope people will look it up and reach out as well.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
This was really fun.
Keep it up, girl.
Great meeting you, because I know there's a lot of people out there who you're an icon.
Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Well, back at you.
Thank you.
Well, we will be back next week with more incredible women. And please look up both the Teen Line and the Jacaranda Foundation. Make it a great week. Hugs and happiness.